Hey everyone, Robert here, author of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life. Are you ready to start living life to the fullest? Are you ready and willing to transform yourself and your life from ordinary to extraordinary? Welcome, my friends, to the Fully Engaged Life. Welcome back to the show, everyone. In the previous episodes, as well as throughout many of these episodes, I've brought up the topic of dogma. And I feel with what we're discussing here as far as the turbulent times and the things that are going on, that it's a wonderful time to take a closer look at dogma and make sure that we understand what it is and understand the dangers of dogma. According to the online definition of dogma, dogma is a principle or a set of beliefs laid down by an authority as incontrovertibly true that are then accepted as truth by the members of a group without being questioned or doubted. Now, for me, there are several red flags in that definition. Many things that alarm me, as I'm sure they do you, and they will continue to alarm people the more that this consciousness shift takes place and we awaken. Now, there's dogma in all kinds of things. There's dogma in sports. There's dogma in politics. There's dogma in religion. And I think the dogma of politics is a dangerous thing as well. But the dogma of religion is probably the pinnacle of problems. And we see that religious dogma can become extremely dangerous due to the beliefs that generally accompany it. Usually, religious beliefs and reality are very, very different things. This is why it's so important to grasp the difference between religion and true spirituality. To understand that in most cases today, there is no real spirituality in religion. All too often, religion serves to enslave its followers through fear and mental conditioning that form prescribed beliefs based in either misunderstood parables or just outright fantasy. Whereas spirituality offers freedom and the ability to attain the unconditioned mind, freeing ourselves from mental conditioning, all mental conditioning. This is what is available for those who engage the path of spirituality. Now, this doesn't mean that all rituals and practices of religions are necessarily bad. Some of them serve tremendously powerful purposes. It means that we need to think for ourselves and keep an open and inquisitive mind and remain grounded in reality while avoiding the mental conditioning of most, if not all, religions. You see, sacredness has nothing to do with religious belief. Instead, sacredness is something that is experienced. It's meant to be experienced, and it is when we attain the wisdom that comes only once we have transcended the mind and once again become one with our essence. Religious dogma goes into the realm of belief. It generally requires you to form certain beliefs instead of experiencing things for yourself. This, in turn, causes beliefs to form that serve to reinforce your identity within that religion, which was created by and protected by your ego. Religion is centered around dogma, just as politics are centered around dogma. Both religion and politics are taboo conversation topics, right? We're always told not to bring up religion or politics when you speak to this person or that. But why? Because both trigger the ego's need to protect the identity. It's an identity that it has helped create for you. Both politics and religion require you to form beliefs, and those beliefs are directly tied to your ego. When your beliefs are threatened, the ego attempts to step in and defend them in order to protect itself, the identity that it's fabricated, that you mistakenly believe to be you. Look at the source of war. Nearly all wars have to do with politics and religion. How many deaths have taken place in the name of religion and politics? This speaks to the danger of the beliefs that are inherent within both of these types of dogma. So understand that religious dogma has absolutely nothing to do with actual spirituality. Dogma is a distraction at best and at its worst. It's a tool allowing an organization with an agenda to control and manipulate you and require you to form beliefs that support its best interest, not yours. I've studied several religious systems over my lifetime, and when I reflected back on them before I wrote Expansion Mastery, I realized just how often that these dogmas serve as distractions to keep you from engaging in practices that can actually benefit you, that can actually help you attain a sense of mindfulness and awakening. Plus, if an organization knows full well the beliefs that you have, it is far easier to control and manipulate you through those beliefs. Dogma doesn't offer anything of real value to a spiritual system, and this is the major difference between spirituality and religion. Unfortunately, especially here in the United States, people recklessly throw around the term spirituality, assigning the meaning to whatever fits their own personal agenda at the time, usually satisfying their own ego in the moment so they feel good. And this too serves to reinforce their identity and lifestyle. That is not real spirituality. Dogma requires you to believe in certain things, such as the opinions, tenets, and behaviors of that specific organization. And these things are meant to be unquestionable. But in real spirituality, you are never asked or required to believe something, but given the tools to experience it directly for yourself so you can come to your own conclusion. Dogma is generally laid out and required to be followed without question, and there's very little thinking to be done on your part. All you have to do is accept and form the beliefs. Spirituality, on the other hand, encourages you to question everything, to think for yourself, to attain the personal wisdom that it will lead you to. This is why I have always told my martial arts students, my spiritual system students, my clients, don't ever just blindly accept what I tell you. Find a way to experience what I'm saying for yourself. Generally, I provide you with plenty of practices to do so, and then you will know the truth of what I'm sharing firsthand. That is the only real way you can know it. And as we know, we're living in rather turbulent times, which are necessary for this consciousness shift to take place. We need these changes. We have to go through this hardship in order to come through the other side more fully conscious, aware, awake, and alive. However, in the meantime, we find that most, if not all, organized religions today have become as corrupt as most governments. They are too big, too powerful, too greedy, and that leads to absolute corruption. Most religions have been this way from the very beginning, but now we're seeing that this corruption and this absolutely criminal behavior that's going on in both religions and government is out of control. It is absolutely unacceptable and out of control. So you have to understand, with big organized religions, the emphasis is never upon empowering the individual, but programming and controlling them for the greater good of the organization. There is never anyone who awakens from the teachings of a church or large religious institution. There's not. Just look around. See for yourself. Understand that it's true for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Religion is just one way to program and control the human mind. It controls the minds of the masses, and it controls the minds from one generation to the next, to the next, and to the next. This makes it no different than government propaganda. Now, that may seem harsh to say, but it's true nonetheless. And that doesn't mean that there aren't those individuals within religion or politics that are trying to do the right thing. There are always good people trying to do the best they can with the best intention possible. However, we know that they are governed, they are controlled as well by a larger entity. And that is where they run into problems. So it doesn't mean that all of these people are bad. It is the system itself, the system of religion, the system of government. It is the system that is the problem. And unfortunately, these types of systems often draw people who are less than scrupulous into their organization, into their fold. Unfortunately, within the massive structure of organized religions, we end up having people that have the best of intentions and others who simply go into it without good intentions at all. And they become more and more corrupted by those who lacked a sense of awakening in the first place. We got to remember that these things are businesses. And all too often, these people succumb to the desires of greed, power, and control. We need to realize that most religions, just like governments, serve to disempower the people, whereas real spirituality serves to empower the people. This is a distinction that we must be aware of. If we break it down and understand it clearly, according to the mind, we can clearly see that in religion, the goal is to program and control your mind, to tell you what to think, to tell you what to believe, and not allow you to question any of it. And if we look, governments do about the same thing. Look at all the propaganda through mainstream media, right? We're fed false stories one right after the other, and it's always been that way. Government is never transparent. They don't tell the people what is actually going on in the world or in their own backyard. They fabricate weak stories time and time again to cover up the truth, and we're expected to believe it. So we can see that religion and governments are kind of like the right and left hand of a body, right? They're just two sides of the same coin. They're the same thing. I think the separation of church and state is an illusion. So see, when you form these beliefs that are based on false information or fantasy stories or whatever it is, you end up living in mental delusion. So let's take a look for a moment here at the basic concept of mental delusion. We can clearly see how religious dogma either does nothing to correct the inherent flaw of the human mind, or it serves to reinforce it. See, when you form all of these beliefs and you entrench yourself in the dogma and you're not allowed to think for yourself, inquire for yourself, then not only are you suffering from the normal state of delusion that the ordinary mind has as its base state, but now you have added a layer of delusion on top of it, bearing your ability to know the truth and to awaken beneath it. Spirituality, on the other hand, seeks to aid the practitioner in overcoming these mental flaws of the ordinary mind, allowing for a healthier mental state of being. And it allows us to experience a sense of freedom and attain wisdom that leads to our awakening. Religion keeps you enslaved in the mind. Spirituality frees you from it. Now, I've done previous podcast episodes on what these delusions are, but let's take a look at this real quick here because we're addressing them again. It's been a while. So, delusion. At the heart of delusion is ignorance. Okay? Ignorance isn't just that you're uneducated. It's that you don't know the truth. You don't understand. You don't know what you don't know, right? It's this ignorance. So because this is the absolute parent that gives birth to all other delusions, we have to understand ignorance. One such ignorance or delusion is the belief in a separate self or, quote, I, unquote. See, this is your identity. This is when you mistakenly believe you are your thoughts, you are your ego. That is ignorance because you don't know better. And most people go through their entire lives not knowing any better. They don't realize that's not them. See, this is the type of ignorance that I'm speaking of. Another example is the way people fall for the thought-based emotions, confusing them with actual true heart-based emotions. Most of the time, we think we're feeling something, whether it's a physical sensation or an emotion, and especially the emotions, and especially of all the emotions, love is the one that is most often mistaken, because love can only be experienced when the heart is opened and you are free of ego. That is the only time you can truly experience real love. Otherwise, it is a thought-based emotion that if you trace it back and if you engage the particular practices around this, you can trace it back, and generally it's going to lead you back to the fear of being alone or convenience or lust or something like that, some sort of desire. And then, of course, attachment is another of these great delusions, right? The egoic mind clings to comfort, to drama, to praise, and to other things that reinforce its identity or sense of the false self. Organized religion uses this too as a way to help keep you in their grips for generations to come. They get you so you cling to the teachings. You have to cling to the beliefs, and you will die defending those beliefs. See, that is an extreme form of attachment and a very, very serious state of delusion. Pride is another one of these delusions, right? So pride is the idea that you're comparing yourself to another. You're comparing your own personal self, your physical body, your intelligence, your life, whatever it is. You are always in a state of comparing and contrasting, which causes separation, which reinforces the ego and your identity. See, this is the egoic nature of the mind as it once again reinforces the identity that it itself is created while serving to inflate itself, the ego. Organized religion uses this to its advantage through the idea that there is only one right way, and that it's presumed that it's that particular way, which of course is not true. They use this in regards to which church you will go to as well. Look at these massive mega churches that are out there. Everyone's so proud to attend. Everyone wants to go to the biggest, best, coolest looking church, right? Yeah, that's very religious of you, isn't it? Yet no one ever awakens even a little bit who go there. How do you think they pay for all of the bills and to drive an expensive car and all these things? The taxes for the bill, where do you think they're coming up with that money? By pilfering the ignorance of their congregation. Many religions consider themselves to be the direct children of God. Yet how can this possibly be when there are so many religions all making the same claim? Do you understand how egotistical that is? Do you see what they're doing here? See, this stimulates a sense of pride. And then they start to believe that they're better than all others. In most cases, they're told that they are better than everybody else. And this results in a sense of separation, and we know that separation is the fabrication of the ego-dominated mind. So can you see how things like pride and attachment are delusions that are based in ignorance? Can you see how ignorance itself is a delusion? You have to understand that this is how massive organizations with their own agenda actually operate. They use these things. They keep you saturated in delusion. They use ignorant attachment and pride as a way to control the masses. Can you see how government does the same thing? How they rely on the ignorance of the people to easily believe all of their silly cover stories while engaging in all kinds of corrupt and nefarious activities? Can you see how they get them proud of a particular party and how they attach to the beliefs of this supposed party? Do you understand all that? Yet there is no difference in the parties. They're the same thing. We all know that. So we can see how both religion and government relies on mental delusions of the ordinary mind, steeped in ignorance, clinging to things such as attachment and pride. And there are more. I'm not going to cover them all again here, but those are some that illustrate my point. They can use those things against us. However, if we are engaged in real spirituality, we will be free of attachment. We will be free of pride. We will be free of ignorance, replacing it with wisdom. And we will become free of delusion. When that happens, and they fear it, they have far less tools through which to program, manipulate, and control the masses. Right now, in these turbulent times, we are all witnessing an incredible rise in inverted religions, right? Such as the rise of all of the satanic and Luciferian stuff that's going on, and even witchcraft stuff that's going on. And most of it is taking place within these big religious organizations that actually tell you how bad that is, and yet they themselves are engaging in that very behavior. And I'm not even going to get into all of that nastiness. But this just serves as more proof of religions being created by the twisted mind of human beings and actually not anything sacred. It is the ordinary, ego-dominated, twisted mind of a human being that puts together these organizations and dictates what people are to believe. That makes it no different than any other dangerous cult. Believing in silly fantasies and fairy tales is mentally unhealthy. It is dangerous. And we know it's dangerous because so many people have fought and died to defend this silliness. And then on the other hand, we have atheism, right? And this is no better than a religion. No religion is just the other end of the spectrum. It's just a state of denying our divinity by calling upon supposed science, right? That's what atheism is. Atheism is actually living in the dogma of science. So if we look at it objectively, we can once again clearly see that much of what science has to offer is only speculation, and it is controlled by governments and religions as far as what is accepted as truth. And we can see this change. If you've been alive long enough, you're probably noticing that the vast majority of things you learned in school are now disproven. We don't know what's real. And we don't know what to actually put any stock into because these things are all being manipulated. Again, we're being told what to believe, even within science. We can see just how often, quote, scientific facts, unquote, change from decade to decade, lifetime to lifetime, oftentimes based upon the current governmental agenda for steering the herd in a certain direction. Much of what we accept as scientific fact is actually nothing more than a belief. It's conjecture. And this leads us right back to where we were with religious dogma. Once again, atheism is centered around dogma as well, the dogma of science. Now, this doesn't mean that all science is bad or wrong. We know that there are some great advancements in it. But there's also a whole lot based on speculation when it comes down to it. Just like most of what we're told about archaeology, we are told that these things are fact, when in reality they are nothing more than speculatory. But it's very difficult to get anybody to fund you upon your speculation. So it has to be able to be accepted by the masses as fact. In order to know freedom, to truly free our mind, we must free ourselves of these mental shackles. Be free of religious dogma. Be free of non-religious dogma. Be free of political dogma. We have to be free of all these types of dogma. Only then can we know true freedom and escape this endless cycle of creating beliefs. It is then that we know true freedom, and we are capable of embracing spirituality. Spirituality is about providing a series of practices that allow each individual to encounter the truth through their own direct experience with the subject matter. It's as simple as that. Yes, of course, there are certain parameters to the experiences, but they exist organically. They are not placed there by anyone. They are not governed over. The truth of the matter is that there is a certain outcome that every human mind will realize with only minor deviations, because truth is absolute. Reality simply is. It's not relative to your desires or agendas or what you want to believe or what you want to happen. It simply is what it is. This is the nature of truth. True spirituality allows us to embrace our humanity through attaining wisdom, the wisdom of truth. This truth leads us to awakening. It often affords us the capability of protecting it from those who would seek to destroy it in order to manipulate and control our mind and dampen our spirit. Organized religions, atheism, politics, these all serve to enslave us through enslaving our mind. This is the war of the mind. Spirituality, on the other hand, shows us the way to freedom, shows us the way to truth. It allows us to think for ourselves, to know for ourselves. And when we are no longer held in bondage by our own false self, our own ego, then those around us who have dark hearts, who have twisted evil minds, can no longer control us either. They cannot suppress us. They cannot enslave us. We are free from all of it. We are free from ourself. That's a false self. We are free from them. And it is then that we can reconnect with our essence, and we can live in this sense of freedom where no one is capable of controlling us ever again. Please visit me at www.expansionmastery.com. Grab your Appreciation Mastery Program, Breath Bridge Program. Grab your autographed copy of Expansion Mastery. Christmas is only a couple months away, my friends. Can you believe it? Wow, what a fast year. These are wonderful gifts for those you love and care about, so please go to the store, stock up on these awesome programs and the book, and make sure that you give a gift that can benefit those you truly care about. Also, make sure that you follow us on social media. Do all the likes and sharing and things. It's getting tougher and tougher to get this out. People are starting to notice more and more that what I'm sharing is being suppressed, and this sort of censorship is only increasing right now. It's going to get worse before it gets better. So please help us out by spreading the word, getting true spirituality out to the people so they know what they need to do, what they can do in order to awaken and join us in this consciousness shift. Until next week, my friends, I wish you the very best in your practices and your life. Take care.